This is Marion Martin. Today is July 17th, 1989, and I'm interviewing Rudy Vavra for the Hastings Waterfront Oral History Project. Rudy, when were you born?
On March 25th, 1921,
And
on a Good Friday.
who else was in your family?
I have two brothers and a sister.
What are their names?
My oldest brother was Anthony, and I have a brother by the name of Stephen Jr., and I have a sister by the name of Emily.
And how about your parents? What were your parents' names?
My mother's name was Caroline. Her maiden name was Rudy Vavra.
And your father's name?
My father's name was Stephen Vavra.
And where were your parents from?
Well, it was all Austria-Hungary before the World War II. And my father really came from the southern part of Czechoslovakia, Breslavia.
And your mother?
I don't know exactly where she come from. I'm pretty sure it was, I think it was Vienna, but...
And when did your mother come to this country?
My mother came to the country 1914.
Did she come directly to Hastings?
I think she did, yes, she did.
And who did she come with?
She come alone.
She did?
She did. My grandmother left her in Europe to take care of her mother, her grandmother, and she come here alone.
Okay.
She came into Ellis Island.
Your mother's mother was already here then, in this country.
Yes.
When had she come?
Oh, I know they were here before my father. My father come here in 1912, August of 1912.
And your mother's parents were already here
They
then?
were here, yes.
What were your mother's parents' names?
My grandmother was Mary. Her maiden name was Novak. Gulish, G-U-L-I-S-H. And my grandfather's name was Thomas.
Gulish.
Gulish, right.
And when they came over, sometime before 1914, who else came with them?
I couldn't recall.
Okay.
But,
Did your mother, Caroline, have brothers and sisters who came over?
Oh, yes.
With her mother, Mary, and with her father, Thomas?
Yes, I'm almost certain, yes. My uncle Tom and my uncle Mike, I think they were all... I think they would come from the old country too.
So how old was your mother when she came?
She had two others. Michael and Tom had two sisters, Teresa and Josephine.
Do you know if they were all here before your mother came?
Yes, they were. My mother was left alone there to take care of
her grandmother.
Right.
How old was your mother when she came over in 1914?
My father, she was born in 1897. And my father was 1895.
I see. So your mother was 17 when she came, and she joined the rest of her family who were already here. Okay. Do you know where your grandparents lived when they first came over here? Did they come directly to Hastings?
They come directly to Hastings, yes.
Do you know why?
I guess it wasn't too far from the city, Ellis Island, and they come up and they figured this is a nice little town, and that's why they settled here.
What did your grandfather, Thomas Gulish, do? What kind of work did he do when he first came here?
He went to work for National Conduct, which was changed to Anaconda Wire and Cable. Right.
So that was sometime around 1912, you think?
Right.
Or earlier than that,
yes,
maybe 1910?
They had labor trouble there at the time.
When your grandfather first worked there?
Yeah.
Do you know how long he worked for National Conduit and Cable?
No, I don't. It's a possibility that when they had the labor trouble, he went to work for Zinser and Company.
This was your grandfather, Thomas Gulish?
Grandfather, too, right.
Oh, I see.
And my father worked for National Conduct, and he also went to work and retired out of Zinser and Company.
I see. Okay. So your grandfather first went to work for National Conduit, and then your grandmother, Mary Gulish, Did she work when the family first came over?
Yeah, they had sort of a farm up here. It was Broadway is a two-way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a one-way now going south and one-way coming north. At that time, that road wasn't there. I don't know whether you knew that.
Oh
or
no,
not.
which road wasn't there?
The one coming back on the High C Street side.
I see.
I don't think it was completely
Cut through?
cut through,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and it was all dirt road at that time.
Well, this farm, you had told me another day you thought it was a dairy farm?
Yeah, they did have one that I can remember is right when you come out of the side entrance of the Andrews home.
Mm-hmm.
There was where Desmond Barry had his house, the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
It was just north of that, maybe a block north of that.
Was that the Fraser farm? The Fraser estate farm?
Probably was.
Okay. I thought that your grandmother, Mary Goulash, had worked where the Andrus Children's Home is.
She did. They had cows there too.
Oh, all right. And what kind of work did she do there?
I don't know. She probably milked the cows.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, them people from the old country, they were all,
Mm-hmm.
especially my grandmother and grandfather and my father, they come from farm country, the southern part of Czechoslovakia.
Do you remember when you were little, was your grandmother working on that dairy farm?
No, I can't recall it, but my sister does.
Okay, she recalls it.
Yeah.
All right. So, and when were you born?
1921, March 25th, 1921, on a Good Friday.
Uh-huh. And you were, I'm sorry, I've forgotten now. Were you the youngest in the family?
I was the youngest, yeah.
All right, and you had two brothers
I had two brothers
and one sister.
and one sister, right.
Right. And where did your family live when you were very little?
Oh, we were born in the Medwick's house.
Mm-hmm.
It was right across the street. There used to be Tompkins and Beavers. Then it changed to Hudson River Yard.
Mm-hmm.
Then it changed to Band's Restaurant. I'll never forget it because when the beer come back, Prohibition was gone. I went down there for my father's first pitcher of beer, 15 cents for the pitcher of beer. I can never forget it.
Now, where was this place on Warburton?
It's Lucian's place.
Oh.
Oh yeah, there was a good restaurant there. Van Kowalski
Mm-hmm.
lived there, and he lived on the top of Washington Avenue.
Mm-hmm. And you lived at, was it 382 Warburton?
I was born in 382 Warburton on the top floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
I
that
can
was
give you families that lived in that whole house.
All right. Tell us who else was in the house.
Under me was Langell,
Mm-hmm.
a Hungarian family that married the chief of police, Joe Trojak.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I want to tell you something about. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to hear the history of the police department and.
Well, not right this minute, but I would like to hear it.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Tell me who else was in the apartment building.
They were there. People, Tolli, Italian
spell
family,
that?
T-O-L-I.
Uh-huh.
Very, very nice family. All nice families lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vanek family.
Mm-hmm. Now, what nationality were the Vaneks?
The Vaneks was Slovaks,
Mm-hmm.
Czechoslovakian.
Mhm.
See, but the Slovaks and the Czechs, different dialect of language.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were
Okay.
Slovaks.
And who else was in the building?
Zaremba.
Mm-hmm.
Zaremba was in that building. Medwicks lived in that building.
What were the Zarembas? What nationality?
Russian.
Oh,
Russian.
Uh-huh. And the Medwicks were?
Medwicks.
What were
and,
they?
Medwicks were Slovaks.
Mm-hmm.
And Macaluso lived there one time.
Mm-hmm.
They were born in that house too.
Mm-hmm.
And oh gee, my sister will give you the whole lowdown on
Okay.
that.
Did your grandparents, Goulash, Thomas, and Mary, did they live with you in that apartment?
No, they had their own, and they had their own house,
Okay.
which they lived on 376 Warburton Avenue, which is, they called it Warburton Avenue, but it was the big flat up against the aqueduct.
When you were little and you lived at 382 Warburton, they already had 376
Yes,
Warburton?
yes, they had it, yeah.
Wonder why you didn't live there.
Because there was, the people then were well respected. They wouldn't put nobody out.
Oh.
You understand?
Okay.
My grandfather told my parents, when someone moves, you're next in line.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
See, they would never put nobody out.
So you were born at 382 Warburton, and you were the youngest. Had your parents lived there since they got married?
I'm pretty sure when they got married, that's where they went.
Yeah. Now, your mother came over in 1914. They must have gotten married pretty soon after that.
Yes, they did. Yes, yeah.
Do you remember hearing anything about that?
No.
How they met, or?
No. My sister can tell you everything.
Okay. Did they rent the apartment, though? At 382 Warburton,
yes,
your parents
yes,
rented it.
Yes.
Who owned the building?
Medwick, Mr. Medwick.
Oh, and he lived there?
Yeah.
Too. Is that Mr. Medwick, is he the man who later moved over where Mandrick's grocery store was on the corner of...
No.
Okay.
He lived, his father passed away, and he was in the milk business. He had a Dairy milk business, and he had the cooler and everything in the back of the house in the garage.
I see.
He had a very successful milk business. He used to deliver milk throughout this town.
I think Andy Kissel helped him. Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah, he had everything. Yeah, Ben Chock and quite a few boys helped him.
Okay. Can you describe that first apartment at 382 Warburton? What was it like?
Oh, it was a cold water flat. In the winter time, you can look and see it's palisade, and you can see that ice, and the cutters used to come up and trying to get through. Sometimes they couldn't.
How many rooms were in the apartment?
4. When I tell my kids the way I was brought up, they would never believe it. Like, we used to my mother, there was 2 tubs, one side by side, right in the kitchen. My mother used to have to heat the water, and my mother used to have to heat the water and give us our bath, right in them tubs.
In the tubs?
Yeah, there was no bathroom in the house. It was all out in the hall, and 2 families shared it.
Shared a toilet?
Toilet.
That was was it in a little room in the hall?
In a little room in the hall, right.
And then the tubs in the kitchen, were they stationary tubs?
Yes, they were.
Oh, you didn't take a bath in a tub that they later hung up and put on a hook on the wall?
No. These were regular tubs, like you probably have one downstairs in your...
For laundry?
Down near your laundry. There were tubs like that.
Okay.
They had nice tops on it, too. And I can remember the gas and the glow lights in the house then.
So how did your mother heat the water to put in the tub?
Gas.
Okay.
Gas.
There was a gas heater in the kitchen?
Yeah, you had regular gas stoves. Yeah. Just like I have here, but not as modern as that.
Right, okay.
You have a picture of one.
Did your family spend a lot of time in the kitchen?
We had a living room, and we had to keep everything in order. I mean, my sister did. My mother used to go out and do a lot of housework and put clothes on our backs, and it was tough in the day, especially the early 30s, the late 20s, and we seemed to manage and get along fine.
Did you 4 kids share a bedroom?
Yes.
And then your parents had the other bedroom?
The other bedroom, right. You imagine my sister and 3 of us sleeping in the same room?
Yeah.
Huh? Ain't that something?
Did you all share one bed?
No. 3 boys slept in one big bed, and my sister slept in the bed by herself. When I think of it, I tell this to my children, my children today, and they think I'm telling them stories. They won't believe it.
And you lived in that apartment until you were how old?
Oh, I lived there right until I went to the service in World War II. All of us lived there.
You didn't move to 376 Warburton?
No, that's it. 376. It was 376 Warburton in them days.
Right, now it's
and then they changed it to No 9. Yeah.
The apartment you were just describing to me then, that wasn't 382 Warburton?
They were both the same.
Oh, were they really?
They were both the same.
Were they laid out the same?
Cold water flats, laid out the same.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the same amount of space in both and everything.
That's right.
What was the rent? Do you remember?
I think it was $12. Then it went up to $14. And I don't think that my parents ever paid more than $24. Like anybody else, my grandfather charged everybody the same, even though it was
family.
My mother paid her share. I don't think they ever paid $20. I'm going back before I went into the service. I'm going back to 1941.
Now, Then how old were you when you moved to 376 Warburton, which would now be called 376 Nodine Street?
Yeah, well, I would say when I moved in there, I was maybe 8, 9, or 10 years old at the most, at the very most.
So your parents waited that long for an apartment to open up there?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And who
and I know all the families in that house.
Okay, tell me who they were.
On the right front was Cavallo, my grandmother and grandfather, the second floor. My godfather, which I'm named after, Rudolph Catafiat, which I hate that name, Rudolph. He was my godfather, and I understand through my sister that when my father come over from the other side, these are the people that he boarded with.
Oh, I see. The
Before
Catafiat.
The Catafiat family.
Were they Czech or Slovak?
Yeah, they were Slovaks, and they were very friendly with my father. And when I was born, he was my godfather, Catafiat, Rudolph Catafiat, and that's how I inherited that name, Rudolph.
Okay, what other families lived in that building?
And then we lived on the top floor. For some reason, we always lived on the top floor, and it was the hottest floor. You know, the flat roof, and it was real hot in the summer. And Rich Valsky. There's a lot of Rich Valskys in town. I'm trying to think of the name. Steve Richvalsky. He used to be the custodian in St. Matthew's Church. He lived in the back of us.
On the top floor.
On the top floor. And then, Johnny Vanek's cousin lived there, the next floor. And that's all I know on that side. There's one family I left out there, but on the other side, I know everybody. Mr. Caffarelli lived in the front. The nicest Italian man that you'd ever want to know there. He lost his wife in a very early part of his life, and he brought up his family.
Wow.
He brought up 3 daughters and a son, and he was one of the finest Italian families that ever lived in town. He was a real good man.
Who looked after the children when he was at work?
Well, he used to... He wound up working for the village. You know, doing different things on a sanitation truck, and he worked there. And his son Pat was a very good bringing up, and he helped too the family, you know. And he's in Florida today, and he's still alive. He must be 70-some years old. And they lived on the first floor in the front. The second floor was my Aunt Josephine, my mother's sister.
What was her last name?
Lanowetsky.
Oh, Lanowetsky.
Lanowetsky. And on the third floor was Mr. Van Hoosen, and a very nice German family. And on the top floor was the Forjohns, John Forjohn, and his sister's name was, her maiden name was Forjohn, and she married a man by the name of Smith. Then they had another daughter. There was 2 daughters and a son in that family. That was on the top floor.
What nationality were they?
Italian.
Forjon?
Yeah.
F-O-R-J?
G-O-N. G-O-N.
Oh, okay.
And they lived on the top floor. That's who we shared our bathroom with.
I see.
See, they lived in the front on both sides.
And how many people were in that family?
There was 2 girls and a boy. And starting to the back of that, right of that house, there was nobody in the front. They just had one family, and in the back there wasn't, because they had like a cellar where everybody had a little space to put their off-done belongings. And the first floor on the back, which was opposite my aunt, was the Hegedish, not Hegedish, but the Hegedishes lived in the Medwick house. That's a family that I forgot.
Right.
Yeah, they lived in the, see how it come back to me? They lived in the Medwick house. And the Mayhas family lived.
In the Medwick house?
No, in my grandfather's house.
I see.
And they lived as long as I can remember. They lived in that house.
What nationality were they?
They were Hungarian, and boy, she was some baker, that lady. We were kids, and she used to call us. I mean, the people in them days, they were something. I mean, They all worked hand in hand. They were friendly. I didn't care what nationality you were.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When we were brought into the world, most of us were brought into the world by midwives.
Right. Who was the midwife who brought you in? Do you know?
I really don't know. My sister would know. It would be either Miss Ritz or Mrs. Seabrock. And then there was another one. I can't recall her name. But we were all brought into to the world by midwives. And I didn't care what nationality you were, whether they come from the Irish flats, where mostly Irish people lived, or Hungarian, or German, or Russian, Polish, Jewish, Italian. When Mrs. So-and-so had a baby, everybody went there and shared and did their part of the work. They used to help one another. You would never believe it.
Really?
You would never believe it, the way the people carried on in them days. Never locked your doors. Forget about locking your doors. You never needed a key for your home because they were never locked. Everything was open.
Really?
I don't care which family you went to, the doors were open.
Up until you went to World War II, you lived at home with your parents?
Always.
The door was always unlocked?
Unlocked, yeah. All unlocked, yeah. We had a curfew in this town, which I think it's still in effect. It was 9 o'clock.
Right.
The Zinsser and Company whistle would blow, and the Anaconda would
both
blow.
whistles would blow.
Both whistles would blow at 9 o'clock at night. That was the curfew. And in the morning at 8 o'clock they would blow, too. And,
talking about these people and neighbors all helping each other, there surely must have been disputes sometimes, weren't there?
Very little, but they would sit and talk and work it out one way or the other, yes.
Most of the people who lived in your grandfather's building at 376 Warburton, that's now Nodine, did most of them work in the waterfront factories?
Yes.
You said one Mr. Cavalli worked for the village.
Caffarelli.
He
worked for the village, yes. Yes, maybe he worked in a block factory before it burnt. I don't know.
I see.
I wouldn't know. But I know his later part of his years that I can remember, he worked for the village and he retired from the village.
And the other...
Very nice man. Very nice family.
The other men in the building?
Well, they worked the same. Anaconda, or it was the National Conduct, or Zinsser and Company, right.
And how about the women? Did most of them also work outside of the home?
Oh, yeah. Very hard. Very hard. Yeah, my mother used to go out to work, and my sister used to take care of the house. And she worked, believe me. That girl really worked. Yeah.
Did your neighborhood around where your apartment building was, did that have any kind of a special name?
No, the only one that had a special name was the Irish Flats. We used to call them the Irish Flats. That's 409 and 407, 405, and I think it's 403.
By the time you were a little boy, did other nationalities besides the Irish live in those buildings?
Oh, well, it went mixed. It went mixed. It wasn't strictly Irish, but they called it the Irish Flats. Right. In this town, in the early part of my life, if you weren't Irish, let me give you an example. Joe Trojak in our town was a good chief of police as far as I'm concerned. To get on a police force, I can remember when I was a kid in the late 30s. It could be either 36, 37, or 38. One of them years. I can remember him coming up the stairs to my parents with a petition to get on a police force.
Oh.
Yes. He's got a brother here in town. I'm living on Washington Avenue. If you want to check it out, check it out.
Now, Mr. Trojak was what nationality?
Mr. Trojak was Hungarian. And if you look at the names of the police department in the 20s and 30s, up until the year of 1936, there was nothing but Irish on there. You had to be Irish to get on a police force. Believe me.
Well, now, you said that people in the neighborhood got along. Wasn't there a little bit of resentment about that?
No. For some reason there wasn't. It's just that I can remember when he'd come around with a petition. He'd come up to my parents to get their signature so he can get on a police department.
Tell me, the people in your building and other people in the neighborhood, did they get together anywhere to socialize? Oh,
yeah. They used to go, each nationality, they had different organizations throughout the county. Like in Yonkers, like my parents belonged to the Slovak club,
Mm-hmm.
and they had up here in Schmidt's Farm, up here in the back of Jackson Avenue. They had what they call Schmidt's Farm. They used to have beautiful picnics there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Slovaks would have it there, and different nationalities would have their picnics up there.
There was
was a few places in Yonkers too.
There was no Slovak club like on Washington Avenue in Hastings? There was?
Yes, there was a little Slovak club.
Did it have a name?
No, Ukrainian club or...
Right,
you know,
that was different. That was a different club, wasn't it?
Club, yeah. They just go by their nationalities. But my father, he belonged to some society, Slovak society in Yonkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going down there when I was older, just before the war, going down there paying his dues.
Mm-hmm. Did your mother and father socialize together?
Oh yeah.
They went out together and...
Oh yeah. Oh yes. And I used to go, they were married in Holy Trinity, and we'd have to take them, they'd go down by trolley, you wouldn't believe it. They would go down by trolley car to go to church, and we had church here.
Mm-hmm.
Until they bought a car. They bought a car in 1940,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first car we ever had. And
Really?
We took them down.
Mm-hmm.
One of the boys would drive them down. My brother Tony or I would take them down.
And they always went to church at Holy Trinity?
Or the Janik family, or the Dumpchick family.
Mm-hmm.
They all went to Yonkers. They all went to Holy Trinity. They probably were all married out of that church. See?
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your father going to the local saloons in town with other men?
Oh, Jesus, I don't even want to discuss that.
Why do you say that?
Oh, geez,
we've heard...
It would be terrible to put it on this thing.
Well, people have talked about all the different saloons. I mean, and some people call them gin mills or what?
Well,
What were they called in your family?
if I told you what my two brothers did to one gin mill in this town, you would never put it on me.
What did they do?
Want
They
me to
broke
tell
it up?
you?
Sure. I mean, not going to hurt anything now, is it?
My father used to go into this one bar, Fred's Bar and Grill.
Fred's? No, I haven't heard of that one. Where was that?
That's where John's Bar and Grill is
All
now.
right, that was called Fred's before that.
Now,
Okay.
never forget it. The pool room was owned by a Jewish fella.
Now, that was right in there with the bar, wasn't
Right
it?
opposite the bar. Where the bar is now, it's a parking space in there. It used to be a pool room there. I was
Oh.
a very good pool player. I used to go in there, and I was pretty good. And my brother went in there one day and told the fella, if my father ever comes in here and you serve him, he told him not to serve him any drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Because my father used to go in there, and they had, like at holiday time, especially Thanksgiving, they'd have a little suckling pig.
Mm-hmm.
They would have a turkey in the window, and they'd roll dice for it. You had to pay so much to roll dice. It was a very active place. But
Did women
also
go in
they
there
would,
too?
No, but they had one in there that would take their money away.
A woman
Yeah.
who was like doing gambling and stuff?
No,
Or she was a
just-
prostitute?
No, she wasn't a prostitute. I couldn't say she was a prostitute, but they would dig into them some way or other and get some money out of them. And you know, when you get feeling good, you don't.
Right.
Anyway.
But generally, like your mother and her friends wouldn't go to Fred's.
No way. This is my father when he'd come probably from work. He'd stop down there for
Right.
a few drinks. But anyway, I'll never forget. I was in a pool room. I was about 15 years old then. Ackerman's pool room. That's the name of the pool room.
Next to Fred's.
Mr. Ackerman, a Jewish fella, had a pool room there. And
Were they connected? Could you go from one room to the other? They were just next door.
Separate. And
this was where the parking lot is
now
next
today.
to John's Bar on Warburton.
Right. That's where the pool room was. Anyway, I was playing pool, and my father come home short quite a bit of money from his paycheck. My brother went in there. My oldest brother went in there, and he really turned the place over. I mean, turned it over. Oh, he made a mess of it. And someone told my brother Steve that your brother's in there turning the place upside down. So he went in there, and I guess he gave him a hand.
This was your brother Anthony who
Anthony,
started
the
it.
oldest
Yeah.
guy. He's a rugged guy.
Right.
Very
now what
quiet,
happened?
very quiet guy.
Did the police come after him?
No. They'd come up there probably, but they were out of there at the time. But
And nobody said who did it or anything?
well, nothing ever happened to him in them days. I don't know why. But about drinking. There was quite a few places in town here on a Sunday. You know, you can't get liquor on a Sunday, but these people made their own stuff.
Now, was this during Prohibition or after?
No, this is after Prohibition. These people used to make their own stuff. In fact, my father made his own. I can remember as a kid, my father used to buy maybe 100 boxes of grapes. At that time, maybe it was 25, 30, 35 at the most per box.
Where did he get them?
He would buy them from the peddler.
Okay.
The peddler that sold vegetables and fruits, he would make a deal with him.
Was that John Masella's father by any chance?
John Masella?
Right. Was that
He
the
was an
peddler's name?
Iceman. No.
He was an Iceman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Marty. All I knew was Marty and Swartz.
Marty and Swartz were the vegetable
Two Swartzes
peddlers.
come in. 3 peddlers. And he would make a deal
Were they
with
Jewish?
him. Yeah, 2 of them were Jewish, but Marty was Italian. 2 Jewish peddlers and Marty. This is where Dave Totoro, the chief of police, he worked in town here with the peddler. And this is how he met his wife.
Oh.
This is how he met Stella.
Okay.
Stella Kulsha. Through coming up with the peddler, selling fruit. When I see him, I'm going to tell him what I did.
What, you mean telling me?
Yeah.
No, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Totoro's sister is Mrs. Salvaggio.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And we've interviewed her.
Oh, yeah. Well, Salvaggio and Totoro, they're sisters.
Oh.
The sisters are Salvaggio's wife and Dave Totoro's wife, they're sisters.
Right,
yeah,
yes. So I knew about
the Kulsha family lived right across from Chenard's Garage, which was the building that's burnt down, that big vacant lot. They lived right next door to that big...
On Main Street?
No, the building's there. That Kulsha's lived in... Kulsha didn't live in that big flat. It lived in a house next to it. Yeah, yeah.
And the Salvaggios lived there too?
No, the Salvaggios lived in little cottages. They did away with them, about 4 of them, right here from the AMP down.
Oh, all right, on Main Street.
Right where the bank is, there used to be cottages.
Oh, and the Salvaggios lived there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So getting back to the saloons, because, there's been so many people have told us about the saloons on Washington, and the men would come across the footbridge, and there was... 2 on one side of the street and 1 on the other, and then there were more up the street.
You had more generals in town than anything.
Well, there sounds like it was nice for the men that they could stop off and relax and have a beer or two. But I also thought that I wondered if there was a lot of abuse of alcohol, and if that didn't create problems in the community.
Well, I wouldn't know. No, there was a few individuals. My father didn't do it every time. But he would get enough in him at times, and on a Sunday morning, I know my father never did it, but you could have went to, I don't want to mention any names, they have people living today, living, their children are living in town, but there was people that you can go into their place and get a shot or a can of beer, and this was illegal.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday.
Right.
Yeah. And just that...
Did the mothers, the wives...
My father, I used to get a big kick out of it. My father didn't make it to sell. He just made enough for himself. McAvoy had a peach tree. And I'll never forget, we used to go over there, and he used to put like a sheet underneath. And he would wait, McAvoys would wait. And I know my father never gave him anything for it. But they would let the peaches ripen real good. And we would shake it, and they would catch it, and this is what my father did. He had a big copper kettle, and I'd say about 5-gallon kettle, and then he had a line coming down, and it circled into a I would say a 3-gallon
jug?
No, 3-gallon pan, mostly in height, and you have to keep changing the water to keep it cool. Because he was making his own, and my father, I can remember him dropping the gauge into the thing when I was a little kid. I used to watch him, and he used to say 180 proof. Well, he used to have to cut it
And the peaches were used to flavor it?
Flavor it. No, the peaches, that's how you make it.
Oh.
You boil that.
Okay.
And he used to make his own wine. And we used to go out, I'll never forget, he used to get a big piece of pork. And I'll never forget, we couldn't wait for the time to go. We used to enjoy it. We used to go out and choke cherry trees. These old timers knew when to go, you know, when it was real ripe. Well, we used to go, two of us boys, with my father would hold a sheet, and one of the boys would go up on a tree and shake it, and we used to catch the berries. And he made wine with that. He made good grape wine, and I can remember my brother stealing it, going downstairs and stealing it, and him and his friends, Bud Fury, John Lavicelli, a few others. They were young fellas, you know. They used to get a little high on that stuff.
Did your mother participate in that at all, or was that strictly your father's thing?
My mother was a hard-working woman. She worked to get clothes for us, and we were very lucky to have parents like we had. Especially my mother. She was a very hard-working woman.
Did your neighbors at 376 Warburton, did they also make their own wine and liquor and things?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody did?
Oh, yeah. Everybody did. My grandfather, he used to, you'd see the way they press it. They had a big, maybe 5-foot round, it was like a barrel, only a little wider than a barrel, and it had openings of maybe half inch, and you would throw the grapes in, and then you turn, just like turning a vice, squeezing a grape. And it was very good wine, and then they let it age, you know, and it was real good.
Do you know anybody who has any of that paraphernalia for making that wine?
Today?
Yeah.
Geez, I wish I knew.
Yeah.
It'd be worth a lot of money, them old things.
Right.
Yeah.
Rudy, what were the most important things your family did together when you were growing up?
They worked hard. Oh, all the families worked hard. Oh, they worked hard. We would have, like the pictures you've seen, a lot of company. Company would come over the house, and they had sometimes, believe me, good food, very good food. I don't care which house you went into. These people in them days lived good and healthy food. I didn't know what a doctor was until I went into the service.
Really?
World War II. I never seen a doctor. None of us, because they had these remedies that you would laugh if I told you what they were.
What kind of remedies? No, that's astounding. You and your brothers and sisters never saw a doctor?
Never seen a doctor, no. Well, take for instance, if we got a head cold or something, right? My mother would get a real Jewish rye. Bread. And she would throw it in the oven, like toasting it.
Where would she buy that real Jewish rye bread?
Oh, right in Mondrick's. He had it. Mondrick's Butcher Shop.
Washington Avenue.
We did a lot of business with them. They were very nice people to do business with, especially the parents and the butcher they had, Steve Ostrowski. He was a nice butcher. But we would do everything there. And you want to hear something about doing it?
Tell me about the rye bread.
Oh, the rye. Oh, yeah. Going back to the rye bread. My mother would put it in the oven, and once in a while she would buy a goose. They're very greasy, and she would save the grease.
Would she get the goose at Mondrick's too?
Not necessarily. I used to go shopping with her. I remember she used to hold my hand going down on Riverdale Avenue and New Main Street. There was regular
down in Yonkers.
Yeah, regular chicken houses, you know, but she would get it mostly in Mondrick. She did all her shopping there and buy the book. No cash. We would go down with the book, and they would write how much in a book. And at the end of the week, they used to give my parents 5 cents off on every dollar they spent.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you had your little book at home
Yeah,
that you carried back and forth?
Back and forth, right. That's the way we did business with the butcher shop.
And I wish somebody had one of those books.
I wish yeah. And I'll never forget, I used to go down. I can remember sugar was a penny a pound, a loaf of bread was 6 cents. The porterhouse steak, the best steak you can eat, round steak was 28 cents a pound.
This was in the late 1920s, early 30s?
No, it was the early 30s, and My father was making $28 a week. That was a lot of money then, you know, for a factory man.
Right.
Yeah. This was when he was working in Zinsser and Company. And it was good. I think
so
they
mostly
were good days. Believe me. We
and
ate good. I don't think anybody in the village, any of the village people, they all ate good. Believe me. They everything was fresh. No refrigeration. Ice boxes.
You didn't have you had an ice box in 376 Warburton.
There was no refrigeration in them days. I don't remember anybody. I used to deliver ice in town. I never seen a refrigerator.
Did your family
Till about 1935, 36. That's when I first seen them.
Did your family eat together at lunchtime? At 12 noon?
At 12 noon? No, because they were working. On a Sunday, yes. Weekends, yes. Yes.
Did you all eat together in the evening?
Yes. Oh, boy, that's one thing, boy. If we had... And when my mother put something on the table, oh, I'm ashamed to tell you what we did. My mother would put a 15-pound ham on a table, and we would kill it in one meal.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, but we would kill it. On a weekend, she would have this. And there was never a meal in the house without a soup on the table before eating your meal. And my wife, I used to get a big kick out of her. When she'd come up for dinner, she used to come over, you know, before we got married, and she would eat the soup, and that was it. She couldn't go any further, maybe have a little piece of meat, but she says, how do you boys eat like that? My God, I can't understand it. But we ate.
Well, you were all pretty big, weren't you?
We were big kids, yeah.
And your father was big, and your mother was big.
No, my father wasn't big at all. No, my father was
I've seen of him.
5'9". He was small.
Oh, but he was stocky man.
Yeah, he was stocky, yeah. He was a good eater and a good drinker.
What language did your parents speak at home?
My mother, I can remember when we were real small, she spoke Slovak. It's similar with the Polish language. And we picked it up very fast.
The Polish, or the Slovak?
Slovak. And then my mother did away with it fast. I don't know why. But I understand it very good.
So your parents were able to speak English well enough?
Oh, yeah. My mother was very good. My father was, too. I was amazed.
Could they both read and write it?
My mother, little. I don't know about my father. Yeah, my father wrote his name. You know.
Could he read the newspaper in English?
Oh yeah, no. He used to get the Slovak paper. In them days, you know, the Russian paper come around, the Slovak, the Italian paper. Oh yeah, they had regular, and they sold.
Where did you buy them?
All these immigrants. You didn't buy them. You had it sent to you.
Oh.
Yeah, just like the Enterprise. Yeah. But I'm amazed that in them days, the nationality paper was out. Not in the store, sent to you.
I see.
Yeah.
And you were saying that everybody worked so hard. Now, your mother, tell me what she did. I know she went out and she worked in other people's homes.
Oh, yes. And remember the other day you asked me the names? My sister knows all the names.
Yes, the people who she worked for. Good.
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask her.
You'll ask him.
And your father started first he worked for National Conduit.
National Conduit.
When he first came after 1912. Yeah. In 1912.
Well, you got the date.
Right. And then, do you know when he started working at Zinsser?
I think when they had the labor trouble. You know when I found the labor trouble?
Yes.
Right in there.
In the historian?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife pulled that out the other day. I says, Grace, do you know, did you ever hear Emily tell you the date that they had the labor trouble? It's right in there. Yeah.
Okay, 1920, I think, about it. 1919?
No.
What?
It was in the 1912 or 13.
Oh, okay. Well, there were several different incidents.
Yes.
All right. And so he may have gone to Zinsser that early, 1912 or 13.
No, like you says, they had incidences down
So he might have gone
then.
then. Or do you remember if he worked for National Conduit during World War I? He did, didn't he? Because you gave me that war pass.
Yeah.
So he was with National Conduit until after World War I.
I don't know. You better look at the date on that.
Yeah.
And my sister can help you out with that.
Okay. And tell me, what kind of work did he do at Zinsser?
Well, he made a chemical. I don't know exactly what kind of chemical. Geez, if you want to go into that, you'll die laughing if I tell you about our swimming. Have you got the swimming?
Well, I have a little bit, but no, tell me.
About the Zinsser and Company?
Well, why don't you tell me about that after you tell me about your father's work, okay? Yeah. You don't know what he did, except he made a chemical.
He made a chemical down there, very special mixture that you had to know exactly what to do, or they'll throw it right in the river. And this is what I wanted to tell you.
Right.
They would throw it right in the river.
Well, why don't you tell me? They used to throw it right in the river?
Oh, my God. When we come to the river, I'll give you something that'll knock your feet right off you.
Now, you said that later your father earned $28 a week. Do you know what he earned in the early years?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, but there was some time
in the 33, 34, he was making $28 a week. That was a lot of money.
In the Depression?
Yeah.
Was he laid off at all from work during the Depression?
No. If you voted Republican in this town, in them days, you had a job.
Really?
Yeah. If you went Democrat in Zinzer's, forget about it.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. There were them ties here in them days. And you know, Mr. Zinzer, Colonel Zinzer, he was the mayor of this town.
Right. Right. For quite a few years, I think.
Yeah.
And they really didn't
very good guy, though.
Inquire as to what the workers voted?
If you registered Democrat, forget about it if you worked down Zinzer's. Forget about it. It was one of them things.
What other kind of people worked with your father at Zinzer? Were there many different nationalities?
Oh, yeah. Archie Graham. I'm at 120. I'm at 123 Farragut. He lived right here. The first house going on Farragut. The first house going south from the Billy Burke estate. He owned that house, and he walked right there.
Yes.
That's south.
Yes.
That's going south
I know where
on
it is.
Farragut Avenue, going south. That first house was owned by my father-in-law's father, Archie Graham.
And he worked at Zinzer.
And he worked at Zinzer, and he had a curved pipe, and I can never forget him, because he used to walk up them steps and walk home and walk to work every day. Take a look at that walk. That's some walk.
Right.
Walking down to Warburton Avenue, you go down to Warburton Avenue south, near Pinecrest, going up to Pinecrest, and there were the stairs.
Right. Did everybody get to Zinzer by those stairs?
Yes, by them stairs.
Down from Warburton?
No cars. You can count the cars. Count the cars on your hand. They all walk. My grandfather, he was the watchman down there.
This is grandfather Thomas Goolish.
Yeah, he worked in National Conduct too. He wound up in Zinzer's too. They had a lot of labor trouble down there.
And did your father do that same job all the years he was there?
All the years, yeah.
He made the one chemical.
That one chemical, right.
And
too bad my brother isn't here.
When did he stop working? Your
he
father?
Retired. He retired 19. Right after World War II, he retired, and he didn't live too long.
Did he get a pension when he retired?
Oh, yeah.
What was the pension? Do you remember?
Maybe he got $300, I think, close to
a month?
Yeah, which was pretty good. Yeah.
That sounds like an enormous amount.
Yeah. Well, this is right after World War II. Yeah, 1947, I think he retired. Yeah.
And when he died, did your mother get the pension?
No. Did she? No, she got Social Security.
So he worked there for how many years?
Between almost
30 years.
Yeah, all his life. It was 30 years between
1920, let's say, or 1919.
No, he went to work right as soon as he come here. 1912 he come here.
Yeah, but I think the little card that you gave me shows that he worked at National Conduit in 1918.
Oh, yeah? So, but anyway, he, between the two places he worked,
How did he feel about his job at Zinzer?
He liked it. He used to walk. They used to walk to work. My grandfather was the watchman down there.
Did they work the same shifts?
My grandfather worked days.
So
my father worked days, yes.
How many of the other people in your building worked at Zinzer?
Mr. Van Hoosen worked there.
Did he?
Yeah. Mr. Forjohn worked for Tompkins here near the golf course, Hudson River Golf Course. And Mr. Tolley.
You mean Boyce Thompson Institute?
Yeah, Mr. Tolley worked there. Quite a few people from the village worked there.
Were there many Slovaks and other foreign-born?
Oh, yeah.
Some people suggested that Zinzer employed more people who were born in this country.
Well, the they had positions. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But their boys, all our immigrant parents, their sons. My oldest brother, he worked down there.
Did he?
Pat Caffarelli worked down there.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think Mr. Caffarelli worked down there at one time. And quite a few people.
So your oldest brother, Anthony.
Yeah.
How old was he when he went to work there?
Oh, crap, he was probably, when he graduated from school, he went to work there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did your father belong to a union there?
No, they had no union.
Right, not until after he left.
Yeah.
Rudy, when did you attend the Hastings Public Schools, or did you?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Where did you go to elementary school?
I went to the St. Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, like you're a Slovak,
mm-hmm.
we had a problem. My parents had a problem because you don't belong in this church at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're Slavish, there's the Polish church there,
mm-hmm.
and things like that. This
mm-hmm.
is what went on. And the sisters were, oh, God forbid. But I sent my kids to the parochial school. A lot of good discipline
mm-hmm.
between what you got at home and in the school. You had good bringing up.
Well, when you were at St. Matthew's as a kid, did you feel that the nuns picked on you because you were Slovak?
Yes. Not only picked on you, but not because you were Slovak. They picked on everybody. They were very mean.
Oh.
for some reason. At parochial schools,
mm-hmm.
I can name you the sisters. I can never forget them.
Mm-hmm. Who were they?
Sister Clista, Sister Vincentine, Sister Eleanor, Sister Thomas. There were a lot of good ones, and there were some real tough ones that would get
mm-hmm.
a yardstick and crack it right across your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh, so tough. And if you did something minor in the classroom, you had to go up after school, and they have, in the Catholic faith, you have candles that you light,
mm-hmm.
and you pay so much to pray for the,
mm-hmm.
and so forth. And we used to have to go and scrape the wax off the candles, sweep the school out. Oh, yeah.
Did most of the kids in your neighborhood go to St. Matthew's?
All the Irish people went there.
Mm-hmm.
All.
What about
Mara, all of them. You name them, they were there. It was a good school,
uh-huh.
but it wasn't just St. Matthew's that was tough. You talk to any kid that went to parochial school
mm-hmm.
45 years ago,
mm-hmm.
50 years ago,
mm-hmm.
they were tough.
Right.
They took nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to wear the same clothes and everything. Oh, it was a lot of good discipline, you know, and
mm-hmm.
without discipline you have nothing,
mm-hmm.
which is very good.
Did your parents pay for you to go to St. Matthew's?
Yes. Yeah, you had to pay school money.
Your brothers and sister went there too?
My wife is a reconverted Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids went to parochial school, she was like the president. She was like the mother. She was like the mother,
mm-hmm.
the head mother of the classes.
Mm-hmm.
She was like the president
mm-hmm.
of PBTA. Not one semester, but quite a few. And here she is. And I had a brother-in-law. Ain't that funny? He wasn't Catholic. He was a converted Catholic. They were better Catholics than the Catholics.
Oh, your wife wasn't raised Catholic?
No.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
No.
Huh. Okay. Were all your teachers nuns at St. Matthew's in those days?
Oh, yeah. In them days, there was no lay teachers. They were all nuns. Today, you have one nun. You have one nun, and they're all lay teachers.
Right.
Yeah.
Did any of the children speak their parents' native language at school?
No, nothing. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to speak it to? Your brother?
None
or
of
sister?
the nuns spoke any languages but English.
No.
And then you graduated from there, from 8th grade?
No. My mother pulled us all out
of St. Matthew's.
Yeah, because she was having a little trouble there because we were referred to the Polish church.
I don't understand. Your mother pulled you out because
it was trouble. Like you're Polish. Mm-hmm. What are you doing here?
I see. So she felt. Do you think she felt a little insulted, or?
I don't know. We left there.
Mm-hmm. When you were in school there, were there other kids in your class who were Polish or Slovak?
I don't remember any of them. They were all mostly Irish kids.
Oh, okay. What grade were you in when you started going to Hastings schools then?
I was either the second or third grade.
Oh, so you didn't go to St. Matthew's for very long?
No.
Had your older brothers?
My brothers and sisters did.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Maybe my sister.
Emily might remember about that.
Yeah, maybe she graduated. And Tony, I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
But you can ask her.
Sure. Okay. So then you went to the Hastings schools.
Yeah.
And what do you remember about them?
Well, when I went to the Hastings school, it was a nice school. I can remember the school being built, that the middle section there. I think that was built in 1934, 33, 34. I don't think you can knock that down with putting 5 cannons in front of it. You'd never knock that building down. It's strictly steel throughout that building. And I could never forget the way you hear them riveting, throwing the rivets into the steel. That building is forever, believe me, forever.
So, and you stayed in the Hastings public schools.
I left
through what grade?
I left in the 9th grade.
After the 9th grade, or
yeah, after the 9th grade.
And how did your parents feel about that?
Well, they didn't feel too good about it, and I was like a little tough guy, you know. And you could never tell your parents nothing. That the teacher so and so hit you, or come home and say the sister hit you.
You couldn't say that to your parents?
To your parents, no, because when my mother got through with us, that was the end. You'd never come home again and tell her.
I see. Okay.
She'd give it to us good.
You think she would take the teacher's side?
Oh, yeah. She had a reason to do it, yeah. And that's the way they were. That's the way them old-timers were.
Right.
Yeah.
Did your brothers, Anthony and Stephen, stay all the way through Hastings High School?
Yeah.
And Emily also?
Emily, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So...
I got involved with the Iceman, and I liked it.
Okay.
You know, I was making money, and I always, let's see.
Well, tell me then, your first job was what? Because we started talking about that and we got sidetracked. What was the first job you did outside of your house?
Oh, the first job that I ever had was Turner Brothers in Irvington. It was a lumber. Boats used to bring the lumber in there, and we used to help with the lumber there. I mean, it wouldn't last long.
How old were you then?
Maybe 15, 16, 16.
You were already out of school?
Yeah. Yep, and they used to, that's where I got my Social Security card out of. Yeah. But I worked with the Iceman before that.
Oh, before that.
Yeah,
so
maybe, you know, helping, on the weekends while I was going to school. I worked with the Iceman quite a few years because he had Joe Fox, Floyd Cropsey, and Ham Questo, which Ham is still alive. He's here living in Uniontown. And I used to, when he got rid of one guy, they would threaten me not to show the other guy the route. The guy that he fired would threaten me not to show the new man the route. You know? And I did, because my boss was a top man. He was a good man.
What was his name?
Willie Gorman.
Oh, and it was Gorman Ice Company?
Yeah, good man. Good man. This man, what he did to people in this town is unbelievable. He helped a lot of people.
Was Beatrice Gorman related to him?
Oh yeah, Beatrice Gorman.
What is named after her? The American Legion Post.
No, VFW.
VFW is the Beatrice Gorman.
Beatrice Gorman,
okay.
Auxiliary.
And what relationship is she to Willie Gorman?
No, I guess it was his sister. They were related. Yes.
Well, tell me what you did then for the Iceman.
Well, I used to go to the village. There was three people in town. They're competitive. Joe Mazzelli had an ice route in Hastings. 2 brothers. They were terrific brothers. Nick and Tony Party. They were in Dobbs Ferry, but they had business in Hastings here. They were wonderful, wonderful. And Willie Gorman, and we all got along good. We all got along good, and I liked it. We used to go to the taverns, and we used to chip the ice as fine as can be. We used to get, they used to get tubs, butter tubs. You know, butter would come in a tub, a round tub, and they used to sell butter in pieces then. And we would go and pay, he would pay 25 or 35 cents for the tub. And this is how we measured our ice for all the beer in them days were draft beer. And they had a cooling system, a piped cooling system. They had the keg downstairs, and they had curl pipes in a cooling system, and you'd have to have ice around them coils to keep the ice cool. And we used to chop the ice very fine. He had choppers just like that, and find the, you know, chop it real fine. And we used to bring it. I used to bring it to Polly's. I used to bring it to Boots Diner. Jack Butterfield's Diner.
Where's that?
Did you know where that was? Know where Rusta Aloisio has his hardware store?
Right next to it?
Right next to it was the Jack Butterfield Diner.
On the north of the truck?
No, he drove the truck and he helped. Oh, yeah. He helped. And
was it just you and Willie Gorman?
Let me tell you what happened to, I wonder if you got the full story on that Jack Butterfield side diner. You didn't? Well, Jack Butterfield's Diner was right up against that wall. Not against the wall, but that's the way you used to go into it.
The north wall of Hastings Electric, where that walkway is.
Now, when Roos
he expanded.
When Roos, I don't think he owned the building at the time because Shoshack hardware store was there before Roos was there.
Right.
And Mittendorf's was on a corner of Washington, right where the deli is right now.
Right, corner of Washington and Warburton, right?
Right, that's right. That's where Mittendorf's was. And then you had Reuben's dry goods store, just where the foot store the doctor is, the foot doctor, right in there. Reuben.
That's just south of the Warburton Avenue
They
Bridge.
were very good. They were Jewish business people, and they treated the old timers very, very good. And Ryder had the one Main Street there.
Right.
They had that store as long as I can remember. As long as I can remember.
Well, tell me about Butterfield.
Oh yeah, Butterfield. Butterfield had it, and this fellow wound up having it. Geez, he gave me a wedding gift too. I still have it. I have it in the house. I forget his name, but we called her Grava Gertie, his
Mrs.
wife.
Butterfield?
No, they sold. They got rid of it, and somebody else had it after Butterfield. But when I'm trying to tell you that when they moved that diner, they took that diner out of there,
right,
and they put it where the funeral home is
on Spring Street.
Right. They put it there.
Yes.
And have you got any pictures of that?
Not on Spring Street.
Yeah. Well, gee, that's a shame.
We have a picture of it on
Charlie
on
Anderson owned the Charlie Anderson owned the property.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah, he owned that property.
Mr. Butterfield committed suicide then, didn't he?
Geez, I don't know what happened to him. I went in the service.
Okay.
I went to war.
Okay.
You know? And I want to tell you about Sikoritsky's Hall. You know?
Yes.
Anybody ever tell you about that?
A little bit, yeah. Did your parents go there?
Yeah. I guess when we were young kids, the Russians used to have a lot of exhibitions down there and dancing. Oh, it was something that you'd want to see, boy. I mean, it was something, believe me. Ukrainian people, Polish people, they used to have a fair there in Sikoritsky's Hall. That's what they called it, Sikoritsky's Hall.
Right.
There used to be a cop there every Friday on a street there between the 1, 2, 3, 4 taverns on the bottom of the hill.
Right.
And the Sikoritsky's Hall, they used to no trouble, but we used to have a lot of out-of-towners come there from Tarrytown, White Plains, Yonkers, to the dances.
I see.
And we used to draw a lot of people.
Did people come on the trolley?
Oh, yeah.
Or did they come on the train?
Oh, they come in, they come on the trolley. Some of them had cars. I'm going 34, 35. Geez, you're talking about the trolley now. You've got me going into something else now. Geez, I used to get a big kick out of it. The trolley used to come down to the bridge. That's I can remember that coming to the bridge, the beginning of the bridge,
the Warburton Avenue Bridge.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when it went up, there's a little upgrade, and right where Wasselchuk had their store, that's where it tapered off.
Where did Wasselchuk have a store?
You know where the flats are? There's a little driveway going down in the back, and that corner store right now, the store is. The store is it's like a Polish store where you can get
a Polish deli,
homemade kibasi and stuff like that. That Penderecki's had that store, and Wasselchuk had that store. That store is where we used to meet and go to school.
Oh.
And we used to walk to school, all the way to school. And
what was Wasselchuk? What? How do you spell that?
They had 2 sons and a daughter. Pete and Fred Wasselchuk. And
what
Ann.
nationality were they?
They were Polish.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure they were Polish, yeah. But we used to meet there, and we used to go to school in groups, you know. And it was nice. They were good days. Oh, going back to the trolley. On Halloween, we used to run where Mikolai's butcher shop was. We used to go down there and follow the trolley up to where Penderecki's store is and pull the line off the electrical line off.
Right, okay.
You know how the trolley had the line going on electrical line? We used to pull a rope and knock it off and stop the trolley.
Oh.
We didn't do that all the time. It was just on Halloween, you know?
Oh, I see.
And
okay.
This is what we did. We used to get a big charge out of that. Yeah? I can remember when I went to the bridge, right? And that was a wooden bridge, you know. That was a wooden bridge. I wish I had a picture of that.
I think we do, actually. We have a picture when they were redoing the bridge in the...
Yeah. What year was that? Maybe 30...
I'm not sure.
35, 4, 6?
You think it was that late?
Maybe a little earlier, huh?
Okay. I'll have to check. I'm not sure. You said before that you used to swim in the river and that you had a story to tell about swimming.
Oh. You wouldn't believe it. You could never believe it. It's and we never get sick. I never.
Well, what was it like? How old were you when you used to do this?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right up until we got to be young men.
And how did you get down to the river?
Walk. I can remember Pete Matochik. One day he went underneath the third rail. I don't know whatever happened to him. Nothing never happened to him. Maybe he got low enough. He crawled underneath. Oh my God! Once in a while, when they would be covered with wood, and if it rained and you stepped on it, you could feel a little current in you. Oh yeah, it was. But going back to swimming, you wouldn't believe it.
Where did you cross over the tracks?
We went over the bridge, or if we walked along the tracks.
Which bridge?
The Zinzer Bridge. We walk over the bridge and come down and under. But once in a while we'd walk. You know how kids are. They want to try everything. We'd walk this side of the tracks and then cross. But going
well, when your father used to take the steps down from Warburton...
Comes right to the bridge.
It went right to the bridge,
right to
okay.
The bridge. The bridge.
Do you remember
right
anything about a tunnel that went under the tracks?
No.
And that came out in Zinzer?
Never.
Okay.
Never remember that.
Okay.
No.
So you used to go down the same
tunnel?
steps.
Where was the tunnel?
At one time there was.
Oh, that must have been in the 1800s. Then.
I'm not sure when, but
how come my parents never told us this?
But there was a footbridge.
Oh yeah.
Over the tracks down by Zinzer.
No, there was a regular the garbage
okay, the big
trucks.
bridge, right?
Yeah,
okay, that bridge.
The sanitation trucks used to go down there and throw garbage for 20-some years.
Okay.
But let me tell you about swimming.
Yep.
Zinzer and Company. It's not like today, you know. If a bad batch of dye was made, right into the river, and there was plenty of bad batches. Today you'd be swimming in pink. Tomorrow you'd be swimming in blue. I'm not telling you no joke stories. And we used to go down there swimming at low tide when the water used to come out. All the garbage, they used to take, not all of it, but you know how the trucks dumped. They had no breakwater. Until finally they made them put a breakwater up, and where they made Zinzer and Company buy 2 big boats, just like the Buccaneer, bigger than a Buccaneer, to make a breakwater to hold the garbage. But the flow of garbage would never go down. Very seldom go down at low tide because it was loaded. You could see it floating down. And then when the tide come in, you wouldn't see it.
Did it bother you to swim in that?
We pushed it with our hands. Oh boy, I'm telling you wouldn't believe it. And I can never forget the 2 good swimmers down there. Gee, this is the south part of town. There was a fellow by the name of Hannock. He's
Paul Hannock?
Yeah, he's living today.
Yeah, we interviewed him.
Him and my brother-in-law. My sister married him. His name was
Willard?
Bill Hawkowitz. William Hawkowitz. If the tide went down, they went down to the Palisade Boat Club to buck it. You know what bucking a tide is? 3 strokes, you don't even go a foot. when the tide is going down. You know, when the tide is going out, it's very strong. The current's very strong. And if it was going down, they would go down to Palisade Boat Club.
You mean they would swim down to the Palisades Boat Club?
No, they would walk down to Palisade Boat Club and swim against the tide.
Just for the practice?
Just for the strengthening them.
Oh.
Swim against the tide. And the current is very strong when it's almost out.
Yeah.
And if it was going up, they would go to Zinzas and swim down. They would always swim against the tide for some reason. I guess that extra exercise. But I wish we could have took pictures of the river.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm telling
Colored
you.
pictures.
And I never heard of anybody getting sick. Ain't that something?
Really? Yeah.
Nobody ever got sick. Nobody. And once in a while you get a mouthful of that. Jesus, it was terrible.
Did you used to ever go up to the north end of the riverfront?
To where?
The north end, where it was a little cleaner? Or wasn't
there? Was no, it was clean nowheres.
I don't care.
Even when the fellas swam up in the point, the fellas in the northern part, like the people on Washington Avenue, never come down where we were. They always went up. They always went up. They went down the dock, public dock, or they went up to the point.
Just on the north side of the Tower Ridge Yacht Club.
Let me tell you a story. Johnny Forjohn lived right next to us. We shared the bathroom together.
At 376 Warburton
Avenue. We made about 15 to 18 eel pots. And we dropped them where we could watch them. See, when you put eel pots down, we put a string of eel pots down and you put 2 buoys up, one at each end. And the buoy, so you can, when you go to pull them up, you get a whole little bit, just like any other trap. Anyway, we would go and we pull our eel traps up, but we can see from our window, you know.
From your apartment building?
From our apartment. He can see it and I can see it if anybody fools with it. Because it was out a little, you know. And we made a big box, maybe 4.5 foot square box. 4.5, that's a big box. And we used to put our eels in there. But one time I says to John, I says, you know, here's a good spot here. We'll put it here, and nobody will see it. See, all you can see is just the top of it. But when I put them 2 boats in to break water, we put the eel pot in between there. See, it was hidden a little. What do you think was there?
What?
An outlet of the dye. And we come over there one day, and all our eels were turned over. Killed them all.
Oh gosh! Ugh.
I'll never forget that. Never forget that. But we were going to go down, you know, sell them to the market.
Was there much of a market for eels?
Oh, boy, very expensive. Go buy eels today. Terrific.
Where would you take them and sell them?
Go down to the fish market.
In Yonkers?
No, right down you can go to the Piscano.
Oh, Piscano, right.
Yeah, you can
but where
sell
in Hastings would you take them?
But no place in Hastings.
Oh.
You'd have to sell them, find a customer to buy them.
I see.
But going back to the eels, when I worked up in Anchor in my last few years, there was a colored woman. I love eels. And I asked her if she wanted to sell the eels. She says, I have no use for them. You can have them all. I give her a couple of bucks for them anyway. You know.
Where did she get the eels from?
She caught them.
I see.
She caught them right there.
Okay.
And they were real nice.
Until your eels got...
I wouldn't eat any fish. I wouldn't eat any fish in this water.
Not now?
Not now, but skins.
But when you were young?
Skin fish, like eels I would eat, and catfish. Catfish is good too, but you see, you skin catfish. Before
you put the eels where the dye killed them, okay, by the outlet, when you had them further out, they didn't die then.
Oh, no.
And you used to catch them and you used to sell them?
Yeah, we used to.
Did you eat them at home too? Did your mother cook them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they were delicious. Oh, boy.
Did lots of people try and catch eels like that? I mean,
oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
I'm amazed that you could see them from your apartment building.
Oh, you could see the buoy. See, it wasn't close.
Okay.
Not quite to the channel.
I see. Okay.
You know.
Did you ever go out on boats in the river when you were growing up, or not?
Oh yeah, I used to go down the Tower Ridge, and every time he's a member of the American Legion. Dan Ryle?
Yep.
Dan, do you know me, Dan? I kidding them, you know. Do you know me? You remember them days when I used to come and they used to hire the boat, and used to charge me 35 cents, and I used to hire the boat. He was the renter.
He was working there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he was a good member down there.
And when you took out a boat for 35 cents an hour or a day?
For the day.
Oh.
For the day. But
and
it
you'd
was
go out...
tough. It was tough. Boy, I mean, you had to go there when the tide was going your way. Like, I never stood up this end. I always went down to our area. You know, south of Zinz's. And boy, if you went against the tide, boy, you really worked it. You really worked it.
Now, you and your friends used to go down to the riverfront, the south end,
Yeah.
the south end of Zinzer to swim. Did your parents ever go down there to swim?
Yes.
Did they
Not
really?
too often, yes. My mother did. Not my father. My mother did, yes. Yes. Yeah,
And would the
I can
parents
remember.
go in the water with
And
the colored
take us,
dye?
and take us. Hold us, like me. I was a little kid.
Oh, when you were little,
Little kid. Oh,
went.
yeah.
Okay.
My mother went down. Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Ain't that something? Oh, yeah. My mother went down. I can remember my mother went down, but as we got older, she didn't. My mother was strictly a hard-working lady. But there was one lady in town, she's still living. She was some lady. Oh, my God. She used to watch me when I was a kid.
Now, who is that?
Miss Macaluso.
Sadie?
Sadie. Let me tell you, what a lady she was. Poor Charlie would be working, delivering out in that truck, and she was giving the store away.
What was he delivering?
Jesus. Wholesaling, big hunks of cheese.
I see.
You know.
This was the little store on Main Street?
On Main Street. They had it on.
Where Manzi's
I'm going back to where Kulcha store was. They had a store here, just below Wasserchuck's.
On Washington
Warburton
Avenue.
Avenue, no.
On Warburton Avenue.
Warburton Avenue. The southern
Macaluso's
part.
did?
Yeah.
Oh.
She used to watch me when I was a kid.
And did the Kolchas have a store there?
No.
Oh.
Yes, Kulcha. Not her.
Right.
Her
not
cousin.
Mrs. Totoro.
They're cousins.
Oh.
Kulcha name. Kulcha candy store.
Oh,
but
I
it
see.
wasn't hers. It must have been her uncle's or
Okay.
something. And
Mrs. Macaluso used to babysit for you.
Yeah, she used to watch me when I was a kid when my mother went out.
And you would be at the store with Mrs. Macaluso, and she would watch you while she took
you
care
know
of
what
the store.
Did? You know what she did at the store? Poor
What?
Charlie would be going out making money. I don't care who come in the store, and they got their order. Miss Macaluso would grab 3 potatoes or 4 onions or cucumber and throw it in a bag. You know, if you do this to a lot of people, and this is the way she was. She was just that way.
Was this Sadie or Sadie's mother?
Sadie. How old do you think she is?
I don't know her.
You don't know her?
She's on my list to interview,
well,
but I don't know
I
her.
hope you would interview her. And she was something. Oh my God, today. You know, one day my wife was having a half done, you know, and she says, my wife says, Rudy, you want to get me a bacon, lettuce, tomato, and it was like in the summer, and she says, you want to get me a bacon, lettuce, tomato, and get me a Diet Coke? Oh, Rudy, you going out? Miss McElroy, Rudy, you going out? I says, yeah. She says, get me a sandwich. Get me the same sandwich as Grace has, and get me a little soda. So I went out and got it, and I come back, and she wanted to pay me, and I wouldn't take the money. I says, Miss McElroy, I can never forget you, how you used to treat my parents. Rudy, do you remember that? I says, I certainly do. I'll never forget. Yeah.
Now, I assume that your mother used to pay her, didn't she?
No.
For watching
no,
you?
No, Miss Macaluso would never take nothing.
My goodness.
No, nothing.
Were there any other little kids there that she used to watch?
No.
Did she have ones of her own?
She would watch anybody, probably. Yeah. Well, this is after school.
Oh, I see. It was after school.
Yeah.
So you would go to the store?
Yeah.
Her store after school?
Right. She was something. She was some lady.
Now,
she was a good girl.
Rudy, you said that your parents belonged to the Slovak Club, and then you had told me last time that we talked that you belonged to a club, that you and some of your friends had a club.
Oh, I gave you a picture of all them fellas.
What was the name of that club?
Riverview Social Club.
Okay.
You know what? I've been looking. When we used to buy beer in the cans, we had a big sign. It was that wide, and it was the length of the building. You got the building.
Yep.
Where the restaurant was. We used that building.
No, wait a minute. Where the
Lesco's.
Yes.
Lesco's.
And right now there's a public park there,
That's
Village
right.
Park.
Well, we had the restaurant. That was our club. And A.C. Williams, he was a contractor, had the rest of it. and we never paid any rent. We just moved in. I'm telling you.
Okay.
We
This
just
was the
moved
old
in.
Lesko's Garage building.
That's right. We had the restaurant. We had the building, the first one south, the first building south, coming into a horseshoe like, and we had that. And we
What year did you start that club?
We started that club in 1936, possibly 35. I'd say 1936 we started that club. Yes. Well, it could have been 35. We started that club, and we made a sign. We saved the beer cans. And the open end we put up on a board. And Pop Fury, the picture that I gave you, Martin Fury is his name. Martin Fury Sr., his son walks the street today with the cane.
Okay.
You ask him. And he was the guy that soldered them together and made Riverview Social Club.
Oh, so it had a big sign.
Big sign had a big
Wish
can.
I had a picture of
and
that.
I had a picture. I had a picture of that, yes.
You have to find it?
I hope I'm looking.
Okay.
And I'll give it to you because I'll tell you why. It was a beautiful picture. I mean, it looked like a professional job, you know. And the picture I gave you, we were facing Warburton Avenue, where you're seeing the billboards in the background. Yeah.
Now, what kinds of things did you do with the club?
Oh, we used to play cards there. It was strictly a horseshoe club. Oh.
What does a horseshoe club mean?
Well, the fellas played horseshoes.
Okay.
We used to play the Dickerman brothers from Dobbs Ferry, which they were very good horseshoe pitchers. And there was the Meyer brothers in No Nine Hill. We used to have tournaments.
Oh, I didn't know horseshoes.
Oh, yeah, very. You had the Richvalsky brothers, Steve and Frank. You wouldn't believe it if I told you.
Was horseshoes
Steve and Frank were such horseshoe players. They would throw 14 or 15, one right after another.
And they would be ringers?
And they would be ringers. That's how good they were. They were Pennsylvania boys. And let me tell you something. When there's 2 or 3 horseshoes on top and you want to get the 4th one on, she swings around and you can lose it, you know. They used to put a little milk box, not right in front of it, like the horseshoe pit would be a 4-foot square with the peg in the middle. Well, just at the end of the end there, maybe 2 foot before the pin, where the pin is, they would put a milk box and throw right over the milk box.
Oh.
At the other end. These guys were out of this world. 2
Was
brothers.
horseshoes
and he's here. Frank is here today.
Frank
lives right here.
what? Richelieu?
Frank Richvalsky. You have to interview him.
Okay. How old is he now?
Oh, Frank is older than me. I'm 68. Frank is older than me.
And was horseshoes as popular as pool?
They were both popular.
Okay.
Yeah, we started that club. We were the first social club. We used to have a club in the cellar, right across from Chenard's Garage. I'm talking about the old
Chenard's Garage
I can
on Warburton.
Warburton. I can remember when they come into the.
What's there now?
His storage place. I can remember when they come into town. Emil and Rosario Chenard. Rosario, he come into town with a motorcycle and his tools tied on the back. They come from Fall River, Mass, and New Bedford, Mass, and they were terrific mechanics. And now the 2 boys run a place on Main Street there, and they're both named. One after the father and one after the uncle. But Rosario was the hard-working man. Emil was the businessman, you know. Very nice people. Oh, very nice. Always wanted to visit when I go up to Cape. I always wanted to stop in and visit them.
How long did you work for the Iceman? I just wanted to finish that one story.
Oh, I worked there for 3 years. Yeah.
And then what did you do? Why did you leave?
Well, I got a better job.
How much did you get?
What did I tell
How
you?
much did you get paid for working for Willie Gorman?
Willie Gorman, I used to work weekends, and when I went to school, I started as a young kid. I was a big kid, you know, and I used to help, and help for nothing. And then he seen me work, and then he paid me. So I went and I worked steady, and he used to give me $12 a week. He used to drop ice, Jack Butterfield, Polies, down the bottom of the hill.
This was $12 a week when you started working full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a lot of money.
So you did that for 3 years, and then did you ever work down on the waterfront?
No, but I ran bowling alleys in town.
Oh. Where, Hastings House?
Yeah, in the in the Farragut Inn. That was the Farragut Inn.
I see, right.
Oh yeah, my uncle had them. Frank Pinnock, the Pinnocks owned that building at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And
was this after the Kaufman brothers sold it?
Yeah, the Kaufman brothers got out of there. Did you ever get the story on that? The Kaufman brothers?
I think they went bankrupt, didn't they?
Yeah. Did you ever get the? No, I'd like to tell you something about them. Oh,
you know what? I've got to go now, though. I've got an appointment. Can we do it another time?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, they built a home on Olinda Avenue there, just as you come down on Broadway. Them two houses on the left,
right?
They're
the brick
identical.
Ones? Uh-huh.
Identical. They were the Kaufman brothers. They built them homes.
Right.
After World War II, you could have bought them homes for $4,500.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I go now?
Yeah, Rudy, I just want to go back and check on something. Mr. Pinnock, what was his first name?
Frank.
Frank. Did he buy the Farragut Inn from the Kaufman brothers?
I don't know how they got it. I don't know if they bid on it or what, but I think the Kaufman brothers lost it. And they wound up with it.
And then your uncle, you mentioned, what was his name?
Mike Coolish.
Oh,
yeah. Well, Frank Pinnock ran the bowling alleys, and he wasn't doing too well. And then my Uncle Mike ran them. And then he got married to my Aunt Millie, and she had 2 daughters, and she was separated or divorced with her husband, and he married her. And when he gave up the alleys, I took him over.
Now, tell me about the alleys. How many alleys were there?
There was 2 alleys. And they were always running. They were kept busy. I kept them going all the time.
All day long?
No, in the evening, mostly from 6 on, 1, 2 in the morning. Sometimes in the weekends.
7 nights a week, or
3? No, the weekends it'd be maybe the 3 till the place closed. But I made a good living there.
Now, what years was this when you did that?
Oh, this was right after World War II. Maybe 46, 47.
And okay, go on.
And I did good. I did very good there. And during, I don't know whether it was a holiday or what, but we had a destroyer down at the public dock come in. It must have been in July or one of the holidays where we had a parade, and we had a destroyer come up. And this young lad come into my bowling alleys, and I took a liking into him, and I took him up my house, and he met my wife's first cousin, and he wound up marrying her.
Oh, really? Did he then move to Hastings?
No.
Oh.
No, he lives out in the Midwest somewhere, but he does come here every other year.
Oh.
And it was one of them things I can't get over it.
Oh. Now,
in fact, I was the best man at his wedding.
Oh, well.
And he got married in is it the Episcopal Church, the one that sits way back?
Yes. Grace Episcopal.
Yeah, that's the one my wife belonged to.
I see.
And she turned Catholic out of that church.
Tell me more about the bowling alley. There were 2 alleys, and were they automated?
No.
No.
They had pin boys. And
who were the pin boys?
I had no problem. Jesus, the kids, they live on a corner. I don't know his last name, Fred, and one boy, Jesus, I can't think, very good kids. One of them's dead today, young fella, he died. In fact, I put a flag on his grave. Jeez, I can't think of their names. But I had no problem with pin boys.
How much did you pay the pin boys?
They used to get 4.5 cents a game.
And how many games would they?
Oh, well, they would be going, quite maybe 75, 80, 100, 110 games. So they made a few dollars. That's $4 or $5 plus tips. That's what they got, the tips.
People did tip them?
Very good tips, yeah. They did very good.
Now, what kind of people came there and bowled?
Local people.
Couples or groups of men?
No, mostly men. Oh, yeah. They would come down there and bowl.
Were there bowling leagues who played there?
No, you couldn't have a bowling league. We did have a bowling league, yes. But it was very small, and we would have to use it for 2 days, like, you know. And I had a little league going, yes, I did. Yeah.
Were the bowling alleys open on Saturday and Sunday during the day?
Oh, yes.
During the day?
Yes, during the day.
And then at night during the week?
Oh, yeah, at night, every night.
Did children come to bowl?
Well, not real little ones. 12, 13-year-olds would come in the afternoon, yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Now, how many years did you say you had it?
I had
2 to 2.5 years when you had the bowling alley.
He eventually sold the place.
Mr. Pinnock?
Not Mr. Pinnock. Mr. Anderson wound up at the place from Mr. Pinnock.
I see.
When Charlie Anderson went in there, he bought the place from Mr. Pinnock. And
you had already had the bowling alleys. You were running them before Mr. Anderson?
No, I ran it when he was there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
After he bought the building.
Yeah, because him and I got along very good.
Oh, I see. And actually, Frank Pinnock had been running the bowling alleys when he owned the building.
Right. Yeah. He didn't. After he gave them up, Frank Pinnock and my uncle Mike were very good. Mike Gulish were very good friends.
Right. Okay.
And he let my uncle Mike run it.
I see.
Then when my uncle Mike got married to my Aunt Nellie, and I took him over.
What about upstairs? Who ran the restaurant?
Charlie Anderson.
He did?
Yeah.
Did he have a manager? Or?
Well,
he was an engineer, wasn't he?
No, he was, yes, in his days, but he had a restaurant business in Yonkers. He ran the VFW 1666. He had the bar there, and he had a restaurant in there. It was on Warburton Avenue at the time.
Is this the same Mr. Anderson who had like a construction company, and he did a lot of the expansion work at Anaconda?
No, that's a different. He was in the contracting business.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Did this Mr. Anderson live in Hastings?
No, he lived in Yonkers.
All right. Okay, yeah. I was thinking of the wrong man.
Yeah.
All right. So then, did people eat, and then did you have food down where the bowling alley was?
Oh, yeah. He would give anybody anything down there. You know, there was a waiter or a waitress that would come down, serving their drinks,
and then who took over the bowling alley after
you?
Well,
what happened? Things start getting slow, and he was talking about a rat skeleton, and this is what he did. He did away with the bowling alleys, and he put a rat skeleton down there, and it was a big, one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. You know, people going downstairs and drinking below the street level, and it didn't go over too good. And he ran that for about a year and a half, 2 years, and he slowly went down and down and down, and he finally decided he's going to give it up.
Oh, and then he sold
the building
to
Arusta Aloisio, and he gave me the first preference to buy it. He wanted $17,000 for it.
Right.
So Arusta Aloisio bought it for 17, and I understand he sold it for 50 to Bernie Hoffman.
Oh, how many years later?
Not too many. Maybe 4 or 5 years.
And did Mr. Aloisio run it as a restaurant?
No.
What?
Then a tenant come in there, a fellow from Yonkers. He had a place on the city line, on the New York Yonkers city line, on South Broadway. And he come up, I can't think of his name, he come up and he ran the bar, and he had a little restaurant, and he ran it for quite a few years. And then when his lease ran out, he sold it to Bernie Hoffman.
In later years, did they ever put the bowling back in, or?
No, the bowling alleys are right there yet.
They're still there?
They're just covered.
But they've never been used since the early 50s?
No.
Since you were the last person?
I was the last one.
Oh.
Yeah. That was maybe 1949.
Right. Now, what was above the restaurant when you ran the bowling alleys? Do you remember what was on the upper floors?
He had rooms for rent, just single rooms.
For overnight, or to have a dinner?
No, he had it for anybody that lived in town, just like Mondrick's had it here, up here in Washington Avenue, right across the street here.
You mean it was like a boarding house?
Boarding house, right.
Oh.
And he had 6 or 7 rooms, and he used it as a boarding house. And up on the top floor was this big banquet hall, and around 150, 200 people up there.
Okay.
At a banquet. And
now, but the boarders lived in between the restaurant and the banquet hall.
Right. That's right. That's right. And now he's got 2 apartments there. maybe 3. Bernie might have 3 apartments there.
I
know
see.
2 of his kids, married kids, live there. Yeah.
I see. And, okay, that's interesting. Rudy, after we talked this afternoon, I drove down to Nodine Street and went around there.
Oh, you did up in the back?
I did.
Good? You did?
Yeah.
Should have took them pictures with you. Would have seen them stones right in.
Yeah. And I remember I used to see that building from the aqueduct a lot.
Yeah.
It used to have open porches on the side.
Yeah, right, on both sides. It was nice, yeah.
I was sorry when they closed those porches.
It was nice. It was real nice. My grandfather, my mother used to sit out on that porch.
When did your grandfather and grandmother sell the building?
My mother bought the building with another fella.
Your mother bought it from your grandfather and your grandmother?
Yeah. And they ran it for maybe 5 or 6, 7 years.
When was that? After World War II or before?
After World War II. And maybe 51 or 52. You know?
Do you remember how much your mother and this other fellow paid for the building?
I think they paid, I think it was $18,000. And my mother bought it with a Mike Kupchak, the guy that's going around buying all the apartments and redoing them.
Right.
Here in Washington.
She bought it with him or his father?
With his father.
I see. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I think this kid's got investors in town here that are buying up all these buildings. And he's doing the renovating.
He does a nice job, I think.
Yeah,
I think
he does. Mike is a hard worker. Yeah. Mike is a real hard worker.
And then what happened? Your mother and Mike's father, what was Mike's father's name? Mike Kirkcher's father's name?
Mike.
Okay.
Mike.
And your mother and he, had your father died by then?
Oh yeah, my father died in 49.
I see.
Yeah.
So they owned the building, and then what happened?
They rented it. You know, rented it, collecting the rent, and then they decided that they were getting older and they wanted to get rid of it. They sold it to Dave Wall.
Yes.
The roofer.
Yes.
The roofer.
Okay.
They sold it to Dave Wall. Dave Wall renovated it. He took the toilets out of the halls and put them inside the house, and he put heat in, and he renovated the whole.
Now, what year was that?
I'd say in the late 50s.
And it went that long with the toilets in the hallways?
Yeah.
That's. Would you say that would, I mean, were there that many buildings left in Hastings with that kind of a layout still in the late 50s?
Hendricks was when it was burnt out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Medrick's was, but that was earlier when the fire.
Yeah.
Wasn't that earlier?
No, it was after.
Oh, okay.
It was after. That fire was maybe in the 60s.
All right.
Late 50s, early 60s.
Now, was the building at 376 Nodine, was that a cold water flat until the late 50s?
Yeah, Dave Wall converted it into heat.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, Dave Wall did. Then Dave Wall sold it to Capuano.
Which Capuano?
The one, the contractor in town now.
And he's the one who enclosed the porches?
Yeah, I guess he did. Yes, he was the one, and his son runs it now. He helps his dad.
I see. During the years when your mother and Mr. Kirkcher owned it, were the bedrooms still unheated then?
Yes, it was a cold water flat.
Still, wow.
Yeah.
And
they were never vacant.
Really?
Yeah.
The families that you grew up with there, I don't have those names now, but did they remain there for many, you know?
Oh yeah.
Did some of those people try to buy their own houses?
They did, yes.
So some of them moved away when they bought a house?
They moved away. They moved away right after the war. Right after the war, they moved away.
Now, did your mother stay in the building until she passed away?
No, my mother was out of there when she was when she owned it. She didn't live in there.
When she owned it, she didn't live there?
She didn't live there.
Where did she live then? Where did she move?
She lived with my sister and with me. My wife took care of her when she was sick. And ain't that funny to both mothers? She won't accept it like my mother.
Wanted to be independent.
And prayed to go.
When I was down there, I noticed that your building there was so close to the Zinser cottages.
The what?
The Zinser cottages Do you know those 5 buildings that were identical on Warburton, on the east side of Warburton, on the same side as your building, on Nodine Street?
Yeah.
They were just a little bit south of your building.
Yeah, cottages, yeah. I can tell you who lived in all of them.
Right. Well, do you know anything about the history of those?
Well, no, really, I don't, but I can remember Mr. Lavicelli. He had a whole Nash, and his sons went to parochial school, and when we went, he gave us a ride in his new Nash.
Now, they lived in one of those...
They lived in a corner house.
You know who lives there now is Kitty...
let me tell you how
Kitty
it went.
Brown.
Yeah, well, let me tell you how it went.
We're talking about the same houses. They were in the last issue of the Hastings Historian.
All right, let me tell you how it went. I can tell you the people that lived in them.
Okay. Oh, where is... I don't have the issue. I was going to show you the picture.
Yeah, I know.
So you know which ones I'm talking about?
I'll tell you from the garage all the way down to the end.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Towards Yonkers.
Towards Yonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, facing Medwick's house, there's 2 houses on the left. Charlie Boy's parents owned the Tree family house to the left of Medwick's house, which the Domchek girl owns now. The Domcheks bought it from Charlie Boy, and now Josephine Domchek owns that house. To the left of that house was the Rapoli house. They're all gone. Just the son-in-law is alive.
Right,
The 2
and Kitty
sisters,
Brown.
his wife, and the other sister and the parents are gone. He remarried. I understand he remarried. He owned that to the left of Boys. Now going south from the Medwick's house, Natashea owned the house that Mary Lavicelli's living in now. That's to the right. And the next one was the Pierce. Pierce owned that house, and they had a adopted boy, his name was Eddie Usher. There's a million Ushers around town, and they're all his children.
He was the first one?
He lived there with the Pierces. Mr. Pierce was an engineer with the New York Central Railroad, and Eddie Usher was brought up by the Pierces. Then it was my grandfather.
Were there no other Ushers in town?
No, he was the only Usher. And then up was my grandfather's house up against the aqueduct, and then coming back down to the houses from Nodine Street going south was the Lavicelli house. That was a 2-family house. And in fact, one time it was a Tree family house. That was the Lavicelli's house. Now the next house to that...
You're going north?
Going south.
Okay.
Going south. I gave you the north houses. There was 3 to the left of facing the Medwick's house.
Wait, I have to go get a photograph to show you because I'm confused. Hold on. Okay, why don't you start over? You were telling me about the gas station on the east side of Warburton Avenue?
It's on the east side, right across the street from Martin's house. This is the gas station.
What's Martin's house?
Martin. Everybody knows where Martin was. He was a man that was in World War I, and he was gassed in that war. And
do you know what number Warburton Avenue it is?
No, it's right next to Lucian's.
Okay, next to Lucian's.
Lucian's is here, and north of Lucian there was a tunnel where the train used to come up to the quarry. I never seen it, but you can see the railroad things that were set up. You know that the train come up there one time or the other. Then there was that tunnel, and then the next house was the Martin house. And then the flats started, the Irish flats.
I see.
Now this is across the street. This was a gas station, and I have to laugh every time I think of it. They had like, to get gas at that time, they had a 5-gallon, like a big 5-gallon jar above the gas tank, above the gas
pump,
right? And they used to, it was a hand pump. You'd pump 5, you'd fill that up. Whether the guy wanted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gallons, and you'd give him whatever he wanted, and then you'd open it up and let it drain right into his tank. There was no electrical thing in them days.
I see. Interesting.
And that was there.
What's this building here called? Do you know?
That's right across the street from the Irish flats. Now there was a building built in here, you know. Mr. Somar bought this building. Larry Young owns that building today. Mr. Somar owned that building, and he built a little building in here which a glass store had it.
Yeah.
He had a butcher shop in there.
Did he really?
Yeah, he built this building and had a real good butcher shop.
How do you spell Mr. Somar's name?
S-O-M-A-L.
L-L or R?
No, Somal.
Oh, Somal. S-O-M-A-L. What nationality was he?
I think they were either Polish or Slavish.
And he had a butcher shop down there?
Yeah, he had a butcher shop there. Okay. And over here, going back to there, after the gas station went out of there, what's his name?
Chenard?
No, a contractor. Tompkins had he was a contractor. He stored this trucking and different things. And from there on, the houses started. There was two houses.
Right.
And then
That's what I was
house.
looking for here, but I couldn't really find a picture. No, he doesn't seem to have pictures that far south of the east side of Warburton.
Well, I could tell you every owner that was there.
Okay. Well, see, these 5 cottages that were at one time identical.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Brown lives in one of them now, Kitty Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. We were heard, they're all 2-family houses, and they were built exactly alike.
Duplex houses.
And we thought that all the
people... One on each side.
That's right. Yeah. That the people lived there worked for Zinsser.
No. Not one of them.
Well, the Rapolis.
General Motors. Most of them worked for General Motors. And going
in Terrytown?
Yeah. Going from Nodine Street south, the houses were Lavicelli on the corner of Nodine and Warburton. The Princes, all of them worked. Karadish, he married one of the Prince's girls, Katie Prince. There was 4 of them, plus the father. They all worked for General Motors. That was the Prince house. And then the Matochiks, he also worked for General Motors. And then you come to Dave McQuaid, lived on the facing the house, lived on the left side, duplex house, and the McKernans lived on the right side. McKernans are in town now, you know. You want to speak to them girls, they can tell you a lot too.
You mean they're visiting?
No, they live here.
Oh,
they live here, and get a hold of either one of them. They can tell you a lot.
How old are they now?
Oh, one of them's older than me. My sister's age, my sister Emily, and the other one is a few years younger.
Okay.
Married to Georgie Rusnak.
And even when you were very young, I mean, when you're remembering these people living in those cottages, how old do you think you were?
Oh, I was 13, 14.
Okay. I'm wondering if when you were, like, just born, or maybe even before you were born, if those cottages were occupied only by people who worked for Zinsser.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you never heard anything about that?
Never did.
Okay.
And we go down further. The McAvoys lived in one of them. The Maxmeyers lived in the same one. Back, you know, one on each side. Then you come to...
where did Mr. Maxmeyer work?
The Demlers lived... the old lady Demler lived on the left, and the daughter lived on the right. And the St. Matthew's Lyceum was right across the street. It was a very good organization. They had a ball club that played every Sunday.
Did your friends belong to that?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of strictly Hastings people belonged to St. Matthew's. Tommy Phelan played ball. The Rusnacks, all of them.
Did you belong?
No, I didn't belong. I was a lot younger than them. Like Mike was my brother's age, and my brother Tony's age, but they... I don't know. Maybe they didn't even belong, but they played. They played for the team. At Ray House, and there's a couple other boys you can talk to in town here. I'll get their names. One's married to the Greenland girl, and one works with my wife in the rectory. I'm trying to think of the name, but they were good ball players. Tommy Phelan caught. And Another fellow you should talk to in town here is Footy Kennis.
We tried.
He won't talk, huh?
You work on him. I know. Because
he can tell you all about the ball.
We've published his picture isn't in this.
Get a hold of Mike before Mike passed away. Mike Rusnak. I know he would have cooperated with me. I'm trying to think of who's around. Tom Phelan could have told you the history too.
We tried for him, but well, he was having a hard time. His wife was ill. Yeah, somebody's just cutting through. But his son gave us some photographs and things that he found in the house.
I told Tom to give you all that.
Yeah. He just never got around to it. It's one of those things. Okay. Rudy, earlier when we had talked, and you had shown me a photograph of some people that your family knew when you were growing up, and they were an immigrant family, and you had said that and I'm not going to mention any names, but you had said that the husband had been very abusive, that he was very hard on his wife and mistreated her, and that she had a hard life. And I wondered, in cases when that happened, did relatives or friends or neighbors, how did those...
They would never interfere.
They never interfered?
No.
Do you remember much of that?
Oh, not too much, but it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it would be a case of a husband beating up a wife?
Well, I wouldn't say exactly beating her, but...
Hitting her?
There might be a case, because I could never tolerate that.
Mm-hmm.
No way. Even as young as I would be, that's one thing I couldn't tolerate, is seeing a man striking a woman.
But this one man did it. Yeah, people knew that he did it.
But he didn't do it that often.
Mm-hmm. I just wondered if anybody then did anything.
No. People would mind their own business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the time, well, you were really too young to remember when Prohibition went into effect, but I wondered if there were, in your neighborhood, some people who were really happy that Prohibition was in effect.
You mean they would make stuff and sell it?
No, well, those people might be happy too, because they would make money from it. Yeah. But other people who really didn't want alcohol available, who felt that, that it was a bad thing and that it wasn't good for people. But do you remember anything about that?
I don't remember anything.
You just remember people making it?
Yeah, my father made it. My father made his own wine. I can remember he always got together 3 or 4 gallons of alcohol he would make with the McAvoys would give him the peaches. Mm-hmm. And he would make the wine, to make the liquor.
Right, okay. When you were growing up, did your family ever take a vacation?
Oh, yeah.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. We went away. Oh, yeah.
Where did you go?
We went to Staten Island, visiting, and maybe stay for 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. And we would, the parents would, there was no way of getting around. We'd go down to the zoo a lot. The parents would take us to the Bronx Zoo. But as far as cars concerned and riding in the car, forget about it.
You didn't have...
You could count the people. You can name them in town that had cars. Maybe in a village there was 15, 18 people at the most. Most cars. But very few had cars. It was tough in them days. And they were inexpensive too. They were on $800-900. And less than that.
Do you remember going on, did Zinsser Chemical have any kind of activities for the families of workers?
No, they had their picnic once a year. And
did you go to that as a child?
Oh yeah, we participated, and then at Christmas time, Thanksgiving, they would give them a big turkey. But that's one thing when I grew up and I brought up my family, that's one thing that I was determined that my boys would never work in the factory.
Really?
Oh boy, no way. I would rather have them. Always spoke to my wife about that, and I always told them I'd rather have my boys dig ditches for $1 an hour than work in the factory, because I did work in the factory, and it's no place.
Was this after you had the bowling alley?
No, this was before World War I.
Okay. And
before World War II, what I'm talking about.
What factory did you work in?
I worked for Phillips Dodge.
Up in?
I worked for 39 cents an hour.
Where was that factory?
In Yonkers.
Oh, all right.
Phillips Dodge, just like Anaconda.
Now, when you were working for 39 cents an hour...
That was good money.
I was going to say, what were they, if you had gotten a job in Anaconda, what would the pay have been?
Same thing. Same union.
Oh.
Local 3.
Did you try to get a job in Anaconda at that time?
You couldn't get work anyways.
What year was this?
When I left the ice company working with the Iceman, I went down the Anaconda. You had to have contact to get in down there. And I gave up, but I got a job down in Phillips Dodge.
Right. Well, when you went down to Anaconda, what did you have to do to try to get a job?
Just stand at a bridge and, you know, the guy would figure you out and say, come on, you know.
Who was the man who would come out and say, you and you?
Well, at the time I didn't know, but I know the latest man that came, he was the personnel manager. Gee, he was a ball player. His brother played ball with the Washington Senators too. I'm trying to think of his name before our names, but I know it would come to me. He was the personnel manager down there. And if you get one of the ball players, you'll get his name. But he played big league ball, and he had his brother that played for the Washington Senators. I'm trying to think of his name.
Actually, I think we have his name. I think we maybe even published his name when we ran that picture of the Hastings Arrows baseball team.
That's the guy. He was the manager of that team, right?
So he was the employment manager,
yeah,
the
he
personnel?
was the personnel manager, yes. Yeah, he would do the hiring.
So how long did you try to... How many days did you go down there? And
a couple of weeks.
Did they ever pick you to go in for a day's work?
But I was told to go down there. They were doing hiring. I went right down there and they hired me.
Down at Phelps Dodge?
Phillips Dodge. My brother did.
It was called Phillips Dodge?
Phillips Dodge. And my brother did get in down there. My brother Steve.
He got in where?
Down the Anaconda.
How did he do that?
He worked there the same way I did. He worked there for 34 years. And he never got a dime. They had no early retirement.
Oh.
And he got cancer of the bone, and he passed away. He worked there 34 years and never got 10 cents out of it. It's different now. The law is different.
How old was he when he started?
Well, 34. He was 62. Maybe I'm talking 1981. He was 1981. He passed away. I lost 2 brothers that year. One in May 8th and on July 17th. 2 months I lost my 2 brothers, and he was born in 1919.
Okay.
And he worked there 34 years. He passed away in 81, 34 back of that would be. $34 years he worked there.
Well, that, to me, that puts him starting there in 1947?
Yeah, that's probably possible.
So after the war.
47? Oh no, he worked there before the war.
Did he work there up until he died in 1981?
No.
When did he retire?
Anaconda went out of business.
Oh, and that was 70...
See, that's where you have to go back.
Oh, okay. All right.
76.
So, but you think he worked there before...
So I say he went to work there in 1938.
Okay.
37.
All right.
Yeah.
So there was still kind of the Depression.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how did he get a job there?
Same way, he went down.
But why did they pick him? Did he play ball, or why did they pick him?
I guess at the time they needed extra money at that time.
And
I went to Phillips Dodge, and when I come home, I said, "You'll never see me again."
How long did you work at Phillips Dodge?
Well, from 1939 till I went in the service. 1939, till I went in the service. And when I come out, no way am I going back. And the personnel man called me up, and I was a good repairman there on cable and splicing, brazing and splicing. It has to go through a die. It was very fine work, and he called me up and he trying to get me back. I says, "You ain't getting me back there, no way." I says, "I don't work nights no more." He was working steady nights. He says, "I got a day job for you." And then I got interested, and I went down there. And I worked for about 3 months, days. Then they put me on a 4 to 12 shift. But Mr. Pringer, my boss, put me on a 4 to 12 shift. And he says, "Don't get excited now. I'm putting you on this shift to break in some men, and you're going to be the foreman." And on this shift, I didn't want to say anything to him. I just didn't come to work the next day. and I went there on a Thursday, and I picked up my check, and I never went back. And yet the personnel manager called me and trying to talk me into coming back, but I didn't want no part of it.
You know, I'm curious about your brother Stephen, who worked there for 34 years.
Never got it done.
Why didn't he get a pension?
Because they had no pension. They had no retirement age, low, like 55, where I was. You could retire at 55 with a low rate.
Right.
They didn't have that in the days. We have.
And when the plant closed, he wasn't yet 65.
Yeah, let me tell you something.